So our scripture today comes from 1 Corinthians 13:11. When I was a child, I used to speak like a child, think like a child, reason like a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things. Sometimes people have a hard time figuring out what the Bible's trying to say. I think this one's pretty straightforward. Grow up. That's what's being said there. That's what's being said in a lot of places. I got to tell you, it's a phrase I hear a lot. I'll just let that sit for a second. But it's true. Over and over again, that's kind of the message. Grow up. Over and over again, that's what the universe is requiring of us, asking of us. Grow up. We are here as children of God, but children grow. We're here to grow. Ask yourself, is this whatever it is helping me to grow? Because that's what the universe requires of me. Grow up. So the natural question is, well, what does it mean to be an adult? How does that work? Not sure. Working on it, be honest. What I know for sure is that it has absolutely nothing to do with age. Because you and I both know people who at 7 have a lot more maturity than some people you know who are at 70. Yeah, that's right. That's one of them. Love that. Give the kid an extra $1. You know what I mean, though? I got to tell you, I'm somewhere in the middle, and when no one else is around, I still take time to practice yo-yo tricks. It has nothing to do with age. And some people say, well, then it must be experience. Some people say, well, it's not the years, it's the mileage. But that's not it either. Because you and I both know people who have been through so much hardship, so much heartache, and have learned nothing from it, and are about to go through so much more of the same heartache. Maybe you've been that person once or twice. I have. You know people who just seem to really dig that drama, and they go through the same thing. So it's not the experience. No matter how many times somebody tells me, learning cool yo-yo tricks will not impress your wife. I'm still like, honey, look at this. And she says, we have a mortgage. But I'll keep trying. I will not be taught. You know what I mean? It's not age, and it's not experience that makes a person an adult. It's something else entirely. It has to do with a set of sensibilities. It has to do with a choice you make. It has to do with the way that we respond to what life gives us that determines if we are immature or mature. Jerry Seinfeld says that pain is knowledge entering the body. Pain is knowledge entering the body. And sometimes it's a lot of knowledge all at once, and that's why it hurts. And I like that. I think it's a good thing to remember when you have those times where something hurts, physical, emotional, any old way. When something hurts, remind yourself that, that's information. That's knowledge. And the question that determines if you are an adult or if you are a child has to do with what you do with that knowledge. If you stub your toe, you have a choice to make with that information. Some people say, who did this? Who put this thing there? It doesn't go there. But that is looking to the past, and it will not fix the hurt toe. Blame looks towards the past, and that is childish. Immaturity looks to the past, where nothing can be done about it. Maturity says, you know what? This doesn't go here. Let's move it. Because fixing it is always better, always better, always better than blaming it. Maturity versus immaturity has a lot to do with past or future. The question of whose fault it is or why did this happen, I get why people ask those questions, but truthfully, the question of who did it, who can I blame, or why is so unhelpful. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Let's fix it. And that is a question of adults. That is a grow-up kind of question. So that's one test. Another thing you can do is say, where am I looking? Here's the question. Is it about me or is it about we? Here's what I mean. You might have people in your life who do dumb things. Maybe. Could just be me, I don't know. Yeah, there might be people that you think about and you go, why did they do this to me? How could they? They know how I feel about these things. They know where I've been. How could you do this to me? That thing that you're doing or not doing, that way that you're feeling or not feeling, that lifestyle choice, that whatever it is, that outfit, whatever it is, how could you do this to me? And I don't know about you, but I've been through a lot of situations where I really lived in how could you do this to me for a really long time, only to find out after a while they weren't thinking about me at all. They were just doing their thing. Wasn't about me. Yeah. This is a moment of maturity when I tell you that you are special and you are important and you are beautiful and powerful and strong and everything good. But I'm also here to tell you that whatever it is, it ain't about you. It's just not. What people do is between them and God. Don't try to get in between that. That's bad stuff. And what you're doing is between you and God. You want to help somebody? Maybe you can teach them by example. You can show them what love looks like we say all the time. But at the end of the day, people are going to do what they're going to do. Don't get in between them and their divinity. There's a commandment about that. You get good with your God and watch what happens as a result. So, those are the two things. It's not about me, it's about we. And when you look at how maturity works in every culture, in modern culture, in tribal culture, wherever you look, one of the hallmarks of adulthood is, I am giving back to the tribe, right? We've talked about this a little bit here and there. That is a sign of maturity, that I'm not interested in what I can get out of it. I'm interested in giving back. Maturity is all wrapped up in service. Ask not what your country can do for you. You know, that whole thing. That is the measure of a grown-up. And something amazing happens when you decide to work for something bigger. You want to be a good husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is. Decide to be the kind of person that serves not the other person, but love itself. You want to get good at your job? Stop worrying about what the boss is going to say or who's going to get caught. And start worrying about just doing a good job. The idea of having something bigger in mind unlocks something in you and in your potentiality. The idea of having something bigger in mind puts you in the mode of a grown-up where you're not just serving the tribe, but all of a sudden, if you make room for something bigger, you have made room for God. And you find a different way to be. Something amazing happens when you make room for Daddy, so to speak. Something amazing happens when you get out of the way. And so, let's really think about that. Where do you get your identity? Over and over again, that's the question that comes to mind when people come to me and they have an identity crisis or a situation of midlife excellence. When don't know what to do or who it is or any of those things, one of the questions that I find myself asking them is, where do you get your you from? Where do you get your you from? Where's your identity come from? How do you know it's you? Because so many times, so many people get their identity from things outside themselves. I am defined by my job, my possessions, my situation, the approval of others. I am defined by this weird childhood that I had. I am defined by the way that I make money or don't. There are so many places to get our identity from. And I think in this culture we have this idea that the more places we put our identity, the stronger we are. The harder we are to hurt. But the truth is, it's like the Harry Potter movies. If you put your identity in a lot of other places, it ends up making you vulnerable. Read the book. And you'll know what I mean. But you already know what I mean. Because everybody knows what it feels like to be spread thin, like butter over too much bread. And there's the Tolkien reference for this week. But everybody knows what it feels like to get our identity from a lot of other places. And we know that it doesn't work that way. We know that is a shaky foundation. But, everybody else is doing it. I don't want to miss out. Everybody else is getting all of their identity from all kinds of places, and I don't want to be the only one who's not. And aren't we supposed to put our heart into what we do? Yes. Here's the thing. Here's the difference between maturity and immaturity. You ready? Put your heart into your work, not your title. Put your heart into your work, not the reward. Don't care, but don't care about what people think about what you're doing. Don't care about what kind of label you get as a result of the thing you do. Just do the thing you do. Put your heart into the work, not the title. That is the secret to so much, and it is for sure the secret to prosperity. Just do the thing. Do the thing with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind and all your might. And who cares what people think? Because once again, that's between them and God. Just do the thing. Yeah. But like some people said, like I said, I don't know why I said some people. We talk about identity crisis. Like I said, some people spend a lot of time putting their identity in a lot of places, and it's scary. We know that we shouldn't do it, and that's why people are up at night going, I don't know what I'm going to do if I lose this job, because part of me goes away. That's an existential death, you know what I mean? I don't know what I'm going to do if this person stops loving me, because part of me goes away. I don't know what I'm going to do if the boss doesn't approve, or the family doesn't understand, or the whatever it is. I don't know what I'm going to do because I have put so much of me in all these places, and if any one of them dies, then I die. Everybody knows what that feels like. Everybody. Because it's a cultural value, and I'm asking us to quit it. Maybe that's what the scripture means about grow up. People think it's a survival mechanism, but when I think survival, I think of one of my heroes, an important spiritual teacher, a guy named Les Stroud. You know who I'm talking about? You ever see the Survivor Man show? Just me? I will watch that all day long. It's you know the show even if you don't know the show, because it's a guy and they put him out in the middle of nowhere, in the forest or in the mountains, in the desert, and they give him weird stuff like, here's a fork and a can of Aquanet and a dream. Go, survive. And he makes a fire and he builds a shelter, and it's just him. There's not even a camera crew. He sets up his own camera and he's just alone out in the middle of nowhere, and he figures out how to make it work. And I love that, because while I'm not in the Canadian Rockies, I'm figuring out how to make it work, aren't you? And one of the things I love about the show that I find inspirational is he doesn't take a whole lot of stuff with him. In fact, the whole point of the show is I'm going to get rid of everything and just see how I can make do. I can just make this work. Survival is not about addition, it's about subtraction, about simplification. And I love that. I love it so much that I've read all of his books. And in one of his books, he says, so here's the thing. When you get lost in the woods, you freak out, and that's when bad things happen. If you want to stay alive, it has less to do with what you take with you and more to do with keeping your wits about you. He says, so take a minute. If you ever get lost, if the plane crashes, you run out of gas or whatever, the candy trail you had been leaving or the breadcrumbs is eaten by wolves or whatever it is, if you find yourself in the middle of nowhere, take a minute, get safe, take a breath, sit down. This is good life lessons. And really think about what's going on. Take a breath. You'll make better choices and you'll stay alive. And ask yourself, you know what? What's the worst thing that can happen? So what? You know what? I'm going to be cold. Okay, I'll figure it out. I might get wet. Oh, no. And you start to realize the things you thought were going to destroy you are so far away from what can actually do you any kind of permanent harm. And you start to take it back. And you start to take it back. Now, this is not Wilderness Survival 101, but there's a life lesson in here. Because what I want you to know is, think about the places where you just might feel shattered if they went away. The possessions. Oh man, if I lost that car, no one would like me. Really? You going to die? You don't have the car? Oh man, if I lose that job, well, you know what? It stinks to lose your job, but people get jobs all the time. They make jobs all the time. They print money all the time. Maybe that's not going to kill you. Maybe it'll make you stronger, as they say. Uh-oh. All of a sudden, my me doesn't live in those places. All of a sudden, I'm reeling it back in. This is a good exercise if you can't sleep in the middle of the night. Where do I get my me from, really? Jesus said, I will make you fishers of people. In this moment, be a fisher of you. Just pull it back, man. Reel it back in. Reel your you back in. Yeah, I can participate in all kinds of things, but I get my me, the I am of me, from my relationship with God, not from how people feel about me or how much stuff I have. Take your you back. And something magical happens. When we get past all those layers, we begin to prosper. Now, we talk about prosperity. It can mean all kinds of different things to all kinds of different people. Some people think it means a lot of money, and that's fine. We'll talk about that later. Sometimes people think it means freedom, and I like that, but we'll talk about that later. There's a lot of different places you can go to get a definition of what prosperity is. Right now, I want to tell you for sure what it isn't. Here's the formula. Prosperity is inversely proportional to the number of layers you have between you and God. That's a lot. Prosperity, I wish I had a chalkboard. Inversely proportional to the number of layers between you and God. In other words, the distance between you and God determines how much you're not prospering. You're not happy. It's not working for you, for example. So what are the layers? People go, well, I want my family to be safe. Well, you're already a layer out from just pure love, okay. But for my family to be safe, it means I need money. Okay, there's a layer. Well, but I can't just print money because that's illegal. So I'm going to get a job. And I don't like the job, but I do the job. And see, now I've got these layers. I want to be happy, but to be happy, I have to have the approval of certain other people. Well, that's a layer between you and true happiness, right? Over and over again, there are layers in life. And for every layer, we get further away from happiness. And I understand why. It's not just because it's a popular cultural value to have those layers. There's something else going on, too. I think that every person has had a moment where they looked true love in the face. I think that every person has had a moment where everything went away in a good way or a bad way, and there they were with God. I think that every person has felt raw inspiration, real truth and beauty. Every person knows what it's like when there's no words. Everybody knows what that's like in one way or another, and I got to tell you, sometimes that's inspiring and sometimes that's scary, because that kind of raw honesty means I cannot pick up all the BS, there's children in the room, all the baloney that I used to use as armor. I have to go to a different place, and for some people that is so scary, that kind of honesty. And so the layers come up. So to mix my metaphors, the light gets hid under a bushel, and you know what, let's put a blanket over the bushel and maybe some hay. And let's not talk about the bushel. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you something that I've told you before, and then I'm going to tell you something that I've never told you before. But I got to do one to get to the other. Okay? Here's the thing I've told you before. Sooner or later, easy way or hard way, that light will shine. Sooner or later, easy way or hard way, it can't be covered up, because we're talking about the divine. We're talking about God stuff. You can't mess with that. Sooner or later, easy way or hard way, it's going to happen for you like it happens for everybody. And that can happen the easy way, where that light is just so brilliant, where you're just so inspired that you're not afraid anymore. And that's beautiful. And sometimes, man, it happens the hard way, when that light is just so powerful that it just burns something up. When you try to pour that wine of good ideas into the old wineskin of just dumb old misconceptions, and something breaks. Either way, easy way or hard way, you're going to go through this. Either way, easy way or hard way, you're going to grow through this. Now, that's the thing I've said before. Sometimes people hear that and they go, well, I know which one I want. I want the easy way. And I got to admit, sometimes that's kind of where I'm trying to steer people when I talk about it. I don't want you to suffer. But I want to be very careful about that. Because sometimes people think that that means that you're not supposed to mess up. Sometimes people get too involved in, we're in the realm and the spectrum of American religiosity. We're in the positive, practical Christian end of things. The feel-good end of things, right? And I want to be there. It feels good in there. I like it. But in that world, sometimes people go, well, I'm not allowed to ever mess up because nobody else is messing up. And they stand up and they sing and everybody's happy and it's great. And I don't ever want to feel like I made a mistake because somehow that means I'm less than. So here's what I'm here to tell you right now. You ready? You have to mess up. You have to. You have to mess up. You must mess up. And I say, give it to me. Let me have the full, messy, weird experience of this life on planet Earth, because I'm not afraid anymore. Because think about it. If I mess up, does it mean that God is somehow compromised? If I'm doing my math and I pay 2 + 2 = 5, does that mean that math is wrong? Oh, no. So maybe it's okay to make a mistake. Sometimes when people pray, they change the words of the Lord's Prayer and they say, deliver us from error. And I understand that. But on the other hand, I don't want to be delivered from error. I want it. Give it to me. Let me mess up, God, because in the messing up, I'm going to grow. It's okay. Let me have it. I want the whole thing. I want to jump into it. I want to feel it because I am smart enough and grown up enough to learn from it. Give it to me. Don't deliver me from any more errors. When you're learning a language, it's okay. Errors are okay. When you're learning a language, it is foolish to say, I am not going to speak a word until I can conjugate every verb perfectly and speak with fluent excellence. You're never going to say anything. You're never going to communicate. It doesn't work that way. It is so much better to go full immersion, right? Speak the language. Speak it wrong so that the person who speaks it better goes, what? That's not how that works. And you learn. It's not hard. It's just long. You learn. You mess up and you fail forward, as they say. That's how it works. I'm here to tell you there's nothing to be afraid of. I'm here to tell you it is time to speak that language. I'm here to tell you it is time for full immersion. Let that immersion be the baptism into a new life because you and I stand on the shore of something amazing. It's time to say, Geronimo. Or as Geronimo might say, me. Thank you. You know the story. I wasn't sure I was going to do that. You know the story of Caesar crossing the Rubicon. You ever heard that one? There's this river called the Rubicon. And this is before Caesar became famous for being Caesar. I guess before the pizza empire and everything else. And he stood at the shore of this river. And he knew, if I cross this river, it is an act of war. And everybody's going to know. And when I cross this river, I must either take over the world or die trying. There's no middle of the road. That's why there's a saying, crossing the Rubicon. It means the point of no return. Well, we know what he did. He crossed, and he did. He made it happen. He became the Caesar that we know. Now, I'm not advocating that kind of conquering the world, but I am saying that there is a point for each of us where we must cross, or what's the point? And what you know and what I know is that for Caesar to not cross means he wouldn't be Caesar, so that's like death anyway. You might as well do it. To quote the gospel of David Lee Roth, might as well jump. Might as well do this thing because it's going to define who you are. It is time. And according to legend, when he crossed the river, he said that saying that you've heard before, the die is cast. That's where that comes from Caesar crossing the Rubicon. And I like that saying. In other words, here we go, bring it on, because that's how I want us to be. If we're going to change the world, that's how we got to be. It's time to be tough. But I also like the other meaning of that word, die. Because you know what? If we're going to do this stuff, if we're going to change this, if we're going to make this happen, if we're going to let this happen, if we're going to be a part of it happening, however you want to call it, something's got to die. The old ways have got to go. It is time for us to not be afraid anymore. It's time something has got to give. And that's an important thing to know. Something's got to change. Something's got to give. You know as well as I do that how you see a person is all they will be for you. We've talked about this before. If I choose to see somebody as a liar, for example, that's all they're ever going to be for me. And no matter what they say, no matter how nice they are, no matter how sweet, there's a part of me that will go, yeah, that's what a liar would say. You know what I mean? They don't have the power to change that. The change has to start in me. The only way that that relationship is going to get better is if I give something, if I forgive something, because people can only give you what you let them. And guess what, boys and girls? That applies to God. It is time for us to allow God to be bigger in our lives. It is time for us to let go of some of the things that we were told we were supposed to be afraid of. It is time because something's got to give, and that give is us. It's time to jump. Now, I've already talked about one tool that can help you get ready for that journey, and that is to reel back in your identity. That's one of them, and here's the other tool. Are you ready? Give what you need. Give what you need. Give what you need. You feel like you need money? Find a way to be a giver. You feel like you need love? Be more loving. You feel lonely? Be a friend. You have to be the beginning of the journey. Give what you need. It doesn't have to be a big demonstration. There's this great story that was shared with me yesterday, and I loved it so much I'm going to tell you the story right now. I'm going to tell you the quick version. It's a Tony Robbins story. He says back before he became famous, he had $20 in his pocket. That's it, $20 to live on. Dead-end job, bad situation. This is it, $20 and no hope of more than $20 anytime soon. I've been there. Maybe you have too. And he went to an all-you-can-eat salad bar place because we're going to load up because I don't know what's coming next. He was sitting there eating his salad, maybe the 5th or 6th trip up to the salad bar because you want to bulk up. And he sees a little boy, 7, 8, 9 years old, come in with clearly his mom. And the little boy gets the door for his mom and pulls a chair out for his mom. And the little boy is acting so grown up. And he's just so inspired by the behavior, by the manners, by the treatment. Here's a gentleman, and we need more of those. He was so inspired that as he was leaving, he paid his bill, so like $6, $7, so he's got maybe $13 left to his name. And he walks up to the little boy and he says, hey, my name is Tony, and I just want you to know that was really inspirational what you did. I like how you're taking care of your lady. And the kid says, not my lady, it's my mom. He says, it's even better. Thank you for being, you've inspired me. Thank you for being there, for taking your mom out to lunch. And he says, well, I'm a kid on a job. I'm not paying for her lunch. And he says, yes, you are. He took the money, put it on the table. He said, I'm bigger than you. And he walked away, and he went home, feeling good about that moment, feeling inspired, and he did what a lot of us do on that spiritual path. You get home when you're quiet, and you go, what did I just do? And the next day, he got his mail, and there was a letter from somebody he'd been trying to get a hold of, somebody that owed him money, and he'd been trying to call and write and show up where he knew the person would be, and the person was avoiding him, because if you want to lose a friend, lend him money. But the letter said, I know you've been trying to get a hold of me, but I've been avoiding you because I owe you money. But you know what? Here's the money and some interest. Now, that's not a big miracle, but I think you'll find that life is about the little miracles. And you give what you need without thought of impressing anybody, without thought of any kind of attachment. Give what you need, because here's the thing I need you to know. God works all the time, right? So if there is a blockage in my life, God ain't doing it. Now, that's not about blame. It's about fixing it, right? Because we're adults. So get the flow going. Give what you need and watch what happens. Boys and girls, we are at the beginning of something new. We stand at the shoreline of something amazing, and we have a choice. Pain is information entering the body. What will we do about it? Fear is misplaced identity. What will we do about it? Take it back. Find something to serve. Give what you need and watch what happens. What happens when you make that jump, when you say Geronimo to your life, you find out that there's you and God wanted you to be happy all along. God wants you to prosper. God wants you to be free. Because, after all, freedom is a choice. Thank you very much.